Staying true to value, exploring global literature. This is Sally's Book Talk. I'm Woo Hai Yoon, your guide for today's exploration of The Better Angels of Our Nature with the subtitle, Why Has Violence Declined? It's part of human nature. No matter how educated or well-mannered you are, there's always that impulse to lash out. Violence between organizations and nations has never truly ceased. Our news feeds overflow with school shootings, terrorist attacks, even regional wars. We can't help but wonder, what's wrong with our world? Is there hope for the future? Fortunately, this book argues that violence isn't humanity's totality, and its prevalence has been declining. We're living in the most peaceful era of human history. The term better angels in the title comes from Abraham Lincoln's 1861 inaugural address during the brink of civil war. Lincoln used better angels to describe humanity's cooperative nature in his final peace effort. Steven Pinker adapts this term to describe humanity's violence-restraining mechanisms. Author Steven Pinker, Harvard psychology professor and cognitive science luminary, recognized by Time as one of the world's most influential figures. Among Western intellectuals, Pinker stands out with remarkable influence and devoted followers. Bill Gates called this the most important book I've ever read. If I could gift every graduate, it'd be Pinker's masterpiece. This 1.2 million word work integrates history, anthropology, sociology, psychology, neuroscience, law, economics, statistics, and political science, tracking humanity's violence trends from prehistoric times. Modern minds might romanticize prehistory as idyllic. Reality paints a different picture. Archaeological evidence shows 15% of prehistoric tribal deaths resulted from violence. Tribal warfare mortality rates were 9 times higher than 20th century wars and genocides. Around 5,000 years ago, humanity transitioned from anarchy to agricultural civilizations, with cities and governance. Violent deaths decreased by 80% during this civilizational shift. Centralized states further reduced violence compared to fragmented small kingdoms. European homicide rates dropped 90 to 98% through state consolidation. Modern wars are fewer, war-related deaths proportionally lower, and genocides increasingly rare. We're living in history's most peaceful era, with continued downward trends. Why has violence persisted through human development, and why its decline? Today, we'll explore this through 3 lenses. First, the violent elements in human nature. Why we commit violence. Second, what are Pinker's better angels? Third, external forces influencing humanity's shift from violence to peace. Let's begin with our first major question. Why do humans commit violence? What psychological factors drive it? 5 core psychological drivers exist. First, predation, resource acquisition through violence. Predatory violence serves clear practical purposes, like attacking a chicken for food when hungry, or mugging someone for their wallet through physical assault. Second psychological driver, dominance pursuit. This involves seeking control and authority, essentially striving for leadership position, manifests in personal ambition or group power struggles. Unlike predation, dominance conflicts often lack material rewards. Pinker cites boys' pee distance contests as example. What's the actual benefit of peeing farther? None whatsoever, but boys keep competing in this peculiar contest. This example highlights gender differences in dominance-seeking behavior. Tinker notes male obsession with dominance correlates with testosterone-driven aggression. Regardless, Pinker confirms males are statistically more violent. Historically and globally, males dominate bullying, violent entertainment, and warfare. Third driver, revenge, a psychologically satisfying motive. 95% of cultures endorse reciprocal revenge, per Pinker's research. Revenge satisfies cultural honor and provides neurological pleasure. Modern neuroscience confirms this through brain imaging studies. And in revenge experiments, participants anticipating payback show striatum activation matching drug or craving responses. Same brain region lights up for nicotine, cocaine, and chocolate. This provides biological basis for revenge's addictive nature. Fourth driver, sadism, deriving pleasure from others' pain. Contrary to assumptions, sadism isn't limited to psychopaths. Pinker argues all humans possess this latent tendency. Multiple motives make others' suffering appealing. Example, innate curiosity about life's fragility drives children's ant burning and adults' morbid rubbernecking. Schadenfreude, common pleasure in others' downfall. Even strangers' misfortune can bring perverse satisfaction. Of course, those psychological factors alone might not drive someone to commit sadistic acts. The problem lies in sadism being an acquired trait. In modern terms, it's cultivated through repeated exposure. That's precisely what makes it so terrifying. Even notorious killers experience horror during their first murder. But through repetition, the act becomes easier and more pleasurable. Gradually, the craving for violence intensifies. The final violent driver, ideology. History shows ideology fueling crusades, religious wars, and the Holocaust. Ideology enables mass violence through group psychology mechanisms. Group environments amplify and radicalize shared beliefs. Groups suppress independent thought to please leaders. Members crave acceptance and group supremacy over others. This often overrides individual morality and reason. Soldiers kill not from hatred, but group conformity pressure. Let's summarize this section. Pinker identifies 5 violence drivers: predation, dominance, revenge, cultivated sadism, and ideology. Recognizing violence as biological roots explains its historical persistence. Fortunately, humanity also possesses innate violence restraining mechanisms. Now let's move to our second major question. What factors can suppress violence? What exactly are Pinker's better angels? Pinker defines these violence inhibiting forces as humanity's better angels. Let's examine each of these angels systematically. First angel, empathy. Empathy, the psychological capacity for compassion and shared feeling. This instinct makes us uneasy witnessing others' suffering. It restrains harmful impulses and enables perspective taking. But Pinker warns empathy alone can't solve violence. This angel has critical limitations. First, empathy conflicts with social fairness principles. Example, media covered sick girl receiving priority treatment. Other meteor patients wait longer without media attention. Appearance-based bias creates systemic injustice. Second limitation, empathy's narrow scope. Empathy primarily functions within close social circles. Starting with immediate family, extending to friends, perspective taking can slightly expand this range. But expansion remains limited and temporary. Our concern for the sick girl might last weeks, but never matching lifelong parental devotion. Thus, empathy's influence remains constrained. Violence reduction requires stronger forces. Now let's meet the second angel, self-control. Pinker considers this a more substantial force than empathy. Self-control means predicting consequences of impulsive actions and restraining them. We don't eliminate violent urges, but learn to resist them. Unlike empathy, self-control has no inherent flaws, but varies between individuals. Studies show self-control is highly heritable. While genes influence it, we can still improve through practice. Psychological strategies can enhance self-control. Example, dismissing provocateurs as immature, seemingly naive, but effective. Another method, present future trade-off planning. What does this mean? Historical example, Europeans banning knives at dining tables, Wild West saloons requiring firearm surrender, early gun control. Similar logic applies to modern arms control agreements. Current self-restraint for future safety. Third angel, morality, a double-edged force. Morality drives human progress but carries risks. When properly applied, it reduces violence, but often becomes justification for atrocities. Historical persecutors always claimed moral high ground. Witch burners, homophobes, honor killers, all believed themselves moral. Why this moral duality? Morality makes people act according to their right, but definitions of right or wrong depend on era and cultural values. Different eras and cultures establish moral codes based on their experiences. When science was seen as blasphemous, burning Copernicus seemed moral. Thankfully, morality evolves over time. Modern ethics reject many past moral practices. No mainstream politician today advocates racial segregation or anti LGBTQ laws as moral. These were common moral positions mere decades ago.